There are moments in life that don't look important when they happen. They don't come with noise. They don't announce themselves. They just sit there quietly. And if you're not careful, you'll walk past them without realizing they were the beginning of everything. The day my life changed did not feel special. It felt like every other day I was trying to survive. But before I tell you what happened, if you are watching this right now, you are welcome to Life Stories with the Innocent. Take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and tell me where you're watching from. I always like to know how far stories travel.
Life Stories with the Innocent. Stories just for you. Ancient wisdom for modern lives.
Let me take you back. My name is Evelyn, and by the time I was 24, I had already lived 2 different lives. The first one ended on a road I was not even on. They told me it was a bus, a long-distance one. They were coming back from the village. I remember the way the woman said it carefully, like if she used softer words, it would hurt less. There was an accident. That was all she said at first. Then more people came, voices, whispers, silence that felt louder than anything. I don't remember crying immediately. I remember looking at Cyril, then at Lillian. Cyril was 8. Lillian had just turned 6. They were looking at me, not at the adults. That was the moment everything changed. Not when I heard my parents were gone, but when I realized those 2 children were now looking at me for answers I didn't have. No relatives came, at least none who stayed. People came with sympathy, with words, with advice. But nobody came with a solution. Nobody said, "Come, stay with me." And slowly, without anyone announcing it, life made a decision. It handed me a role I was never prepared for. I became the one who wakes up first, the one who decides what we eat, the one who answers questions, the one who says, "It will be okay," even when I don't believe it. I became everything: mother, father, provider at 12. So no, I didn't wake up that morning with hope. Hope is something you carry when things are getting better. What I had was responsibility. I woke up to the sound of Lillian coughing, not once, not twice, but the kind of cough that stays in the air, like it is not ready to leave. I opened my eyes slowly, stared at the ceiling, and listened. There are sounds you learn to measure. That one told me she wasn't getting better. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I'm fine," she said, too quickly. I turned my head. She was already looking at me. Children like Lillian learn early how to say they are fine, even when they are not. Cyril was still lying down, but I knew he was awake. He always was. He just didn't like to speak too early. For a few seconds, none of us said anything, because in that room we all understood something without saying it. There were problems, and none of them were going to wait for us to be ready. And for a moment, just a moment, I was tired of being the one who had to be ready first. I sat up slowly. There is a way you move when people are depending on you. You don't rush, you don't complain, you just begin. I tied my scarf tighter than usual and walked into the small kitchen. There was a bowl on the table. I lifted the cover, looked inside, then closed it again. "Will you come back early today?" Cyril asked. I leaned against the wall for a second. "I'll try," I said. And even as I said it, I knew something. Trying and doing are not the same thing. I stepped outside and closed the door gently. The morning air was still cool, but not for long. It never stayed that way. The road to the construction site was already alive. People moving, voices rising, the city waking up like it had something to prove. I walked through it quietly, not because I didn't belong there, but because I had learned how to pass through places without letting them touch me. By the time I got to the site, the work had already started. Metal clanged. Men shouted. Dust lifted into the air. The building stood there, unfinished, like a promise someone had made and then abandoned halfway. I picked up a headpan. No greetings, no small talk. Work first. Always. And somewhere in that ordinary morning, without noise, without warning, something had already begun. By the time I left the site that day, my body felt like it didn't belong to me anymore. There is a kind of tiredness that doesn't shout. It settles in your shoulders, in your back, in the way you walk without lifting your feet properly. That was how I walked out of the construction site that evening. Slow, measured. Not because I wanted to take my time, but because that was all I had left. The sun was already dropping, the air a little softer, but hunger was louder now. Not sharp, not painful, just steady, the kind that reminds you haven't had enough. There was a small supermarket along the road. I had passed it many times. A simple place, glass doors, a faded signboard, Divine Choice Supermarket. I stopped. For a second, I considered walking past, but my body had already made the decision. I went in. The cool air hit my face, and for a moment everything slowed down. I picked up a drink. Then something small. Nothing extra. Nothing unnecessary. Just enough. I reached into my bag, brought out the money I had, counted it once. Then again, just to be sure, it was enough, barely. I paid, collected my things, and stepped outside. The evening had deepened slightly. People were moving faster now, trying to get home. I adjusted my scarf and took a step forward. Then I saw it on the ground. A wallet, black, clean, out of place. I stopped, looked around. No one bending down, no one searching. Cars passed. People walked. Life continued. But that wallet stayed there, waiting. I stepped closer, then paused. Because sometimes you know before you even touch something that it carries weight. I bent down and picked it up. It was heavy, heavier than it should have been. I held it for a second, then I opened it and everything inside me went quiet. Dollars. Not one, not two. Bundles. Neatly arranged. I didn't count it immediately, but I knew this was not small money. Later, I would realize it was about $5,000. 5,000. My fingers froze. Then I looked deeper. Business cards. A driver's license. Not Nigerian. International. An American one. And then a card I had only ever seen from a distance. A green card. I swallowed. This was not just money. This was someone's life, their identity, their movement, their access, everything. For a moment, the world around me disappeared. No noise, no movement, just me and what I was holding. Cyril, Lillian, the empty bowl, the cough, the way I had said, "I'll try." I closed the wallet halfway, opened it again, as if maybe it would change. But it didn't. It stayed the same, real, possible. I looked around again. Still no one, no voice, no panic, nothing, just me and a decision. No one would know. My fingers tightened around it. For a second, I didn't move because walking away from it was one thing, but putting it back was another. The thought came quietly. Not forcefully, just logically. Because it was true. There were no cameras watching me. No one had seen me pick it up. This money could fix things. Not forever, but enough. Enough to rest, enough to breathe, enough to stop calculating every single day. My grip tightened. Then something else came. Another thought. What if he comes back? I looked at the wallet again. There was a number on one of the business cards. I hesitated. Then I reached into my bag, took out my phone, dialed it, and held it to my ear. Nothing. No connection. I tried again. Still nothing. International line. I lowered the phone slowly. Now it was worse, because I had tried, and still it was just me. I stood there for a long time. Then slowly I closed the wallet and walked, not back to the supermarket, not toward the main road, but home, each step heavier than the last. When I got there, Cyril was sitting outside. Lillian was inside, quiet. I stepped in, placed the things I brought down, then brought out the wallet and placed it on the table. It didn't belong there. You could feel it like something from another life had entered ours. Cyril looked at it, then at me. "Where did you get that?" he asked. "I found it," I said. Silence. Lillian stepped closer. Her eyes moved from the wallet to my face. No one spoke, but everything was understood. This could change something, or test everything. I sat down, opened it again. The money was still there, unmoved, waiting. And in that moment, I knew something. This was not about money anymore. It was about who I would become if I kept it. And some things, once you become them, you don't come back from. I closed it, slowly. Then I stood up. "I'll be back," I said. This time, my voice was steady. I picked up the wallet and walked out, back toward the supermarket. Not because it was easy, but because it was right. Benjamin did not notice the moment it happened, and that would later bother him. Not the loss itself, but the fact that something important had slipped out of his life without resistance. That afternoon had been quiet for him exactly how he preferred it. No meetings, no interruptions, just space. After years of building things that carried his name, he had learned something early. People rarely approached him for who he was. They approached him for what he had. Money, access, opportunity. He had seen smiles that arrived too quickly, respect that felt rehearsed, kindness that disappeared the moment there was nothing to gain. He had watched people perform loyalty while calculating advantage. So he adjusted, not by becoming harsh, but by becoming careful, measured, observant. He was back in Lagos for a short stay. Not for business, at least. That was what he told himself. He wanted quiet, movement without attention. That was why he dressed simply that day. Plain shirt, jeans. He drove himself. Control was something he never outsourced. He had stopped at the supermarket earlier, the same one I frequented. A small one, nothing elaborate. He picked a few things, paid and left. Routine. Until the moment it wasn't. At the petrol station, the attendant leaned slightly. "Sir, if you're paying with card, it's better to do it first. Network can be slow." Benjamin nodded, reached into his back pocket, and paused. Checked again. Nothing. The second pocket, nothing. He opened the car door, checked the front seat. Then, slower this time, between the seats. Under, nothing. Now he moved to the back, opened his bag, checked inside. Files. Nothing else. Now he stopped. "My wallet." He said it quietly. Not panic, but recognition. Something was wrong. That wallet held his identification, his international driver's license, business cards, access, and about $5,000 in cash. But more than that, it held continuity. Benjamin leaned against the car for a second, then straightened. Now his mind moved. Last point of use. Supermarket. Distance. Time passed. Probability. He got into the car, started the engine, and drove back. Not fast, but with clarity. Every turn now had intention. As he drove, a thought crossed his mind. If someone had found it, would they return it? He didn't answer, because experience had already done that. Most people didn't. He pulled into the supermarket, stepped out, walked straight in. "Excuse me," he said. "I was here earlier. I think I left my wallet." The cashier looked at him, paused, then recognition. "You're the one that bought drinks, right?" "Yes." She nodded. A lady brought it in. Silence. Benjamin blinked once. A lady returned it. Yes. That didn't fit. At least, not with what he had seen of people. "Where is it?" he asked. Moments later, the wallet was placed in his hand. He held it, opened it, slowly. Everything was there. The cash, the cards, the documents, untouched. For the first time since he noticed it was missing, he exhaled. Then he looked up. "Where is she?" The cashier shook her head. She didn't wait. Something in him shifted. Not shock, not disbelief, recognition. Someone had made a choice without an audience. He reached into his wallet, paused. Then into his jean pocket. There were a few folded Naira notes there. He brought them out quietly, gave some to the cashier, then to the security man. "Thank you," he said, not loudly, not for attention, but because it mattered. He took out a piece of paper, wrote his number, and folded it carefully. "If she comes back, please give this to her." The cashier nodded. Benjamin closed the wallet, but his mind stayed open, because now this was no longer about what he lost. It was about who returned it. And for the first time in a long time, Benjamin was not analysing risk. He was thinking about a person quietly, but in a way that stayed. Benjamin expected to forget about it. Not immediately, but eventually. That was how his mind worked. He encountered something, understood it, then moved on. That had always been enough. But this didn't follow that pattern. The first night after he got the wallet back, he stayed awake longer than usual. Not restless, just aware. The room was quiet, the lights were off, but his mind kept returning to one thing. A woman who had seen everything inside that wallet and walked away. No name, no number, no explanation. "That doesn't happen," he said quietly. And yet it had. The next day passed. Work, calls, movement. But somewhere in between all of that, something had shifted. By the second day, he noticed it. Each time his phone rang, his attention changed. Not outwardly, but internally. For a brief moment before he looked at the screen, there was an expectation. Not strong, but present. A quiet thought. Could that be her? It never was. And each time, he dismissed it. But the thought returned. Again and again. Not enough to disturb him, just enough to stay. So he went back to the supermarket. The first time, it felt casual. "Has she come back?" he asked. "No, sir," the cashier replied. He nodded, left. The second time, he stayed a little longer. Not standing still, just present, watching. The door opened, closed, opened again. Each time, his attention followed it. "She hasn't come," the cashier said quietly. Benjamin gave a small nod. "All right," and stepped out. That should have been enough, but it wasn't. Within that same week, he returned again, and then again. Not every day, but often enough for it to become intentional. By the fourth visit, he asked more directly, "Does she come here often?" The cashier shook her head. "I've only seen her once or twice. Do you know where she stays?" "No, sir." Benjamin stood there for a moment, then nodded. Not frustrated, but no longer casual. He stepped outside, paused, looked back at the entrance, as if the answer might still appear. It didn't. As he got into his car, something settled in his mind. Not loudly, but clearly. Someone like that should not disappear like this. He didn't know her name, didn't know where she came from, didn't know anything about her life. But he knew one thing. Integrity like that was not common. And things that are not common have a way of staying with you. He started the engine and drove, but now he was no longer just moving through the city, he was paying attention. And without realizing it, Benjamin had crossed a quiet line from curiosity into intention. 3 weeks passed, not quickly, not slowly, just the way time moves when nothing changes. Work, home, repeat, the same road, the same dust, the same calculations in my head. How much is left? What can wait? What cannot? I didn't think about the wallet every day, but sometimes it returned, not as regret, but as a question. Who did it belong to? Did he come back? Did he find it? Did it matter to him the way it would have mattered to me? I didn't have answers, and life did not pause to give me any. That morning, I went back to Divine Choice Supermarket, not for anything special, just to buy what we needed. I picked what I could afford, nothing more. And as I turned to leave, "Excuse me, madam?" I didn't stop. Not immediately. People call out like that all the time. But then I felt a light touch on my arm. I turned. The cashier, the same one. She was smiling. "Ah, you are the one," she said. I frowned slightly. The one who returned the wallet. Something inside me shifted. Not excitement, just recognition. "Oh," I said. She reached under the counter, brought out a small folded paper. "He came back," she said. My fingers stilled. "He said if you ever came, I should give you this." She handed it to me. I took it carefully, like something fragile, because suddenly it felt like it was. "Was everything inside?" I asked. She nodded quickly. "Yes, everything." He was very happy. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until I let it out. "Thank you," I said softly. Then I stepped away. But my mind did not move with me. It stayed on the paper in my hand. I didn't open it immediately. Not inside the supermarket, not where people could see. I waited until I stepped outside. Then I unfolded it. A number. Nothing else. No name, no message. Just a number. I stared at it for a few seconds, then folded it again. Carefully, very carefully, as if it could disappear if I didn't handle it right. On my way home, I didn't think about food. I didn't think about work. I thought about that number. What would I say? Would I call immediately or wait? Would he remember me? Would it even matter? By the time I got home, I had already decided I would call him the next morning, when my mind was clear, when I could speak properly, not like someone rushing, but like someone who had done something right and deserved to be heard. I placed the paper carefully inside one of the shopping bags, tucked it in, safe. Or so I thought. That evening was like any other. Lillian cleaned, Cyril arranged things. We ate, talked a little. Nothing unusual, nothing that warned me. It was later, much later, that I remembered. The paper. I stood up immediately, went to the corner where the bags were kept, looked. One bag missing. My chest tightened. "Lillian," I called. She turned. "Yes?" "The bag from the supermarket. Where is it?" She frowned slightly. "I threw it away," she said. My body went still. "You... what?" "It was empty," she said quickly. "I cleaned everything and threw the waste outside." I didn't wait. I ran, barefoot, out of the house, across the small path, to the big green waste bin at the corner. I opened it. Empty. Completely empty. I stood there for a long time, not moving, not speaking, just standing. Because sometimes loss doesn't come with noise. It comes quietly and sits in your chest before you even understand it. I closed my eyes, took a slow breath, then sat down, right there, on the ground. "I had it," I whispered. "I finally had it." And now it was gone. Not taken, not stolen, just lost by mistake. I wiped my face slowly. Then, after a while, I stood up. Because life does not stop when something matters to you. It continues whether you are ready or not. I looked once more at the empty bin, then turned and walked back home. But as I walked, one thought stayed with me. If it is meant to be, it will still happen. I didn't know if I believed it, but that night it was the only thing I had. And somewhere in the same city, a man I had never met sat with his phone beside him. Not waiting, but not ignoring it either. Because for reasons he could not explain, every call that came in felt like it could be me. But the distance between us was not far. It was small. A thin piece of paper, folded once and thrown away too soon, and neither of us knew we had already missed it. The sun was already lowering, but the heat had not left. Dust hung lightly in the air. The road stretched ahead, uneven, uncertain. I saw a car slow down. The driver checked an address, then looked up. He seemed to be in a place he wasn't used to navigating. He exhaled quietly, then pulled to the side of the road, engine still running. He looked around once more, no clear sign, no familiar marker. I was working lifting a block, placing it carefully, then another. Measured, steady, unhurried. "Excuse me," I heard the voice behind me. Not loud, but clear. I turned. A car. Clean. Out of place. The window was down. A man sat inside, well-dressed, calm, looking directly at me. "Yes," I said. "I'm trying to find this address," he said, holding up his phone slightly. I stepped closer, not too close, just enough to see. The screen reflected light. The name meant nothing to me, but the street did. "You've passed it," I said. He frowned slightly. "I have?" "Yes," I nodded. "You'll need to go back. Take the second turn on your right." He listened carefully, not interrupting. Then he nodded once. "All right," he said. "Thank you." I stepped back. "That's fine," I replied. He didn't move immediately. Just looked at me for a brief second, not in a strange way, not judging, just noticing. Then, "Are you sure it's the second turn?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "You'll see a small shop at the corner. That's your sign." He nodded again. "Okay." A pause, short, unnecessary. Then, "Thank you," he repeated. I gave a small nod and turned back to what I was doing. The block, the dust, the same rhythm. Behind me, I heard the car move. Slowly at first, then it drove off. I didn't look back. There was no reason to. And even if I had, it would not have meant anything. Because to me, he was just a man asking for direction. And to him, I was just a woman on the roadside. Nothing more. Nothing yet. But somewhere between that brief exchange, something invisible had already happened. Not connection. Not recognition. Just proximity. The kind that passes unnoticed until later. Much later. When it begins to matter, a few days passed. Not marked by anything unusual. Just movement. Work. Calls. Decisions. The kind of days that filled themselves. Then, one afternoon, the man from the road Benjamin drove into one of his sites unannounced. The gate opened. Dust lifted lightly as his car rolled in. Workers moved across the space, measured and focused. The structure was halfway up blocks stacked, steel rods rising. His supervisor hurried toward him. "Good afternoon, sir." Benjamin nodded. "How's progress?" "On schedule, sir." They walked together, the supervisor pointing and explaining. But I saw his attention shift. Not suddenly, just drawn. I was there, carrying a full head, pan-heavy, but balanced. My steps were steady, not rushed, not dragging, just controlled. I dropped the load, turned, and lifted another. No complaint. No pause. Just continuation. I saw him slow down, then stop. He asked the supervisor who I was. "That one?" the supervisor said. "Yes." "Just one of the labourers," he replied. Then I heard the supervisor call my name. "Evelyn!" I stopped, adjusted the scarf on my head, then walked toward them. My hands were dusty, my clothes marked with work, but I kept my face open. "Yes, sir?" I said. Benjamin looked at me briefly, then spoke. "There's something I need from the shop down the road. Can you help get it?" I nodded immediately. "Yes, sir." No hesitation, no calculation, just willingness. He handed me money. I took it, turned, and left quickly. I didn't know it then, but the supervisor told him I wouldn't count that as work time and that I'd lose part of my pay for the day. Benjamin said nothing, but his eyes followed me as I moved down the road. A few minutes passed. Then I returned a bit faster this time, a slight breath in my chest, but still composed. I handed him what he asked for. "Here, sir." Benjamin took it. "Thank you." I smiled, not broadly, not for effect, just naturally. "You're welcome." Then, without waiting, I turned and went back. I lifted the next load and continued as if nothing had happened, as if I had not lost anything, as if it did not matter. I saw him stand still for a moment, then speak to the supervisor. "She didn't need to rush like that," he said. The man shrugged. "That's how she is," She doesn't complain. Benjamin looked back at me from a distance, working, carrying, continuing. No sign of effort wasted. No sign of sacrifice counted. And I think, in that moment, something in his mind aligned. He saw that the kind of person who would give up part of her day's earning without hesitation is the same kind of person who would walk away from money without touching it. He didn't say it, but he knew it, as a certainty. He turned and walked back toward his car. This time, he didn't look confused. He looked closer to the answer. He just didn't know he had already found it. Benjamin stepped out of the supermarket. A small bag in his hand, nothing heavy, nothing urgent. He walked toward the glass door, calm and measured. He pushed it open, and at the same moment, I stepped in. Cool air met my face. I adjusted the strap of my bag, then paused, because he slowed. He turned. He looked at me. "You were at that site the other day, right?" he said. I nodded. Yes. A brief silence. Recognition. Nothing more. "I thought so," he said. I gave a small nod, then stepped past him and continued inside. He didn't stop. He didn't turn back. He walked out. "Madam?" I turned. The cashier was already standing, eyes wide. "Did you see him?" she asked. I frowned slightly. "Who?" "The man. The one whose wallet you returned." I shook my head. "No." Before I could ask anything, she took off fast out of the supermarket. So sudden, it startled the people around, even me. I stood there for a moment, then slowly turned and walked toward the entrance. Outside, Benjamin had just reached his car. He opened the door, got in, and started the engine. The car began to move slowly toward the gate. "Sir, sir." He looked up. The cashier was running toward him. He slowed, then stopped. She reached the car, bent slightly, breathing hard. "Sir?" "She's here," she said. "Who?" "The lady, the one who returned your wallet." A pause. Then Benjamin turned and saw me. I stood at the entrance, not rushing, not calling out, just there. He opened the door, stepped out, and walked toward me, not fast, not slow, just certain. When he stopped in front of me, everything else faded. "So, it was you." A quiet silence settled between us. Recognition complete now. "I got your number," I said, "and I lost it." No panic, no defense, just truth. He nodded once. "That explains it," he said. A small pause. Then he reached into his pocket and brought out his phone. "Let's do it again," he said. He handed it to me. I took it, typed my number carefully, and checked it. Then I handed it back. He called immediately. My phone rang right there in my hand. I looked at it, saved the number, then looked up again. "Thank you," I said. He nodded slightly. "You're welcome." The cashier stepped closer, still catching her breath. I turned to her. "Thank you," I said softly. She smiled, relieved. "I'm happy now," she said. "I came to buy a few things," I added. He gave a small nod. "Go ahead, I'll be on my way." I nodded, then turned and walked back inside. I picked what I needed carefully, only what I could afford. At the counter, the cashier rang the items, still smiling. "You almost missed him," she said. I gave a small nod, paid, took my things, and stepped out. Outside, the car was gone. I walked to the bus stop, calm, steady. The bus came crowded, as always. I entered, found a small seat, and placed my bag on my lap. My phone rested on top. I picked it up, looked at it for a moment, then placed it beside me and reached into my bag. "Hurry up!" the conductor shouted. I brought out the money quickly, paid, and stood up. I stepped down. The bus moved, and just like that, something was left behind. On the seat, my phone shifted, slipped, and fell to the floor, unnoticed, unclaimed, gone. That night, I reached for my phone and froze. My hands searched again, then again faster. Nothing. My chest tightened. The bus, I whispered. I sat down slowly, because this time it wasn't just a number. It was a connection, and I had lost it. Again. Across the city, Benjamin sat still, aware. He picked up his phone and called. The line didn't ring. It went straight to voicemail. A small pause. Then again, same result. "She'll call," he said quietly. Minutes passed. Then more. Nothing. He called again. Still nothing. And slowly, that quiet expectation began to fade. That night, two people lay in different places, holding on to the same moment. One trying to reach, the other unable to respond. And between them, once again, something small, something simple, had slipped away. But what neither of us knew was that our story was not over, because somewhere ahead, in a place neither of us planned to be, our paths were about to cross again. Not by chance, not by effort, but in a way that would leave no room for another miss. Continue in part 2.